Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Workforce Ready with NStar. My name is Nnamdi Ihenacho, and I'll be taking you on this session as always. I hope your day is going well, your week has been going great, and I hope you've been getting value out of the sessions. Typically, Workforce Ready is live streamed every Saturday by 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But today I am pre-recording this because I and my family are going to be on a mini vacation. All right, and so it's our annual fall break / my wife's birthday vacation. So it's not going to be live this week, but we're back live the week following. So I'm excited. I'm grateful that I get to keep doing this. Thank you for everyone who's been rocking with us since we started. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for subscribing. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe so that we can keep getting this word, the message out, do all the social media, YouTube things that you need to do. But subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you get to know when we post amazing content. Go ahead and do that now. I'll give you a minute. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, great. All right, excellent. So let's go ahead and jump in. Today's topic is an exciting one. I like talking about database administration because that's what I do. That's my day job. In addition to all of the things I'm involved in, building community and leading NStar technologies, I also work as a database engineer. I've been doing that for quite a bit now, quite a while. Let's put it that way. So today I'll be talking about the day in the life of a database administrator. A day in the life of a DBA. That is today's topic. Let me know in the chat if you're already a database administrator or you are an aspiring database administrator. I'm curious to see and get a good gauge on the demographics of people who watch this. Maybe you're an aspiring database administrator, you're somebody who's looking to get into tech, or you're already a database administrator. Maybe you have opinions and thoughts. Then please stay on. I'd love to get your feedback on some of the things that we're sharing. And the reason why I'm doing this today, the reason why I'm getting into this conversation today is to pull the curtain back a little bit on the role of a database administrator, especially for people who are just trying to get started in this lane, get to understand exactly what a day in the life of a database engineer, a database administrator really looks like. It's the DBA role is not just, sitting in a server room. It's beyond that. It's a mix of, proactive planning, focus, strategy, high pressure situations, problem solving, and just having a blast, right? Making the world a better place, one resolved the procedure at a time, right? And so I want to, kind of show everyone today, like the flow of the job, what the day looks like, the mindset you require to excel, the type of high level tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis. We'll go from the morning through, project work, troubleshooting scenarios. And if you are unfortunate, after hours call, any database administrator will tell you that is the least favorite part of our job is working and being on call. And not just being on call. I've worked in companies where I was an on-call DBA, and basically you're supporting after-hours support. And you wanted to be on call because nothing happened. But the worst thing that can happen to you is when that call comes in by 2 a.m. in the morning. Right when you are about to change gears in your dream, and then the phone goes off and you have to respond or jump on the call and speak with offshore team to discuss concerns that we are having and having to navigate all of that. So anyway, let's jump in. So the morning, how does our day start? It's I have this tag as the proactive morning, right? It's health checks and maintenance, making sure things are good, right? As you start with coffee. I like coffee. I start my day with coffee and prayers. Our day often starts with just checking the health of your database environment. I always teach this to my students, day in the life of a DBA. Once you get in the office, typically there is going to be some email that's capturing, maybe some good organizations will have like an email that's a summary report of all of like your maintenance and your critical jobs from the night before. And a status on how each one ran, what the situations are. There's once you need to troubleshoot, resolve, do all of that, then you would have that. It's also checking your third-party monitoring tools, reviewing key performance indicators to make sure again that everything is running smoothly or ran smoothly through the night. You want to check your backups, you want to check your again your maintenance jobs, all the other standard things that that represents your operations running well. You want to make sure that they ran successfully. You might need to go back and do some investigation to why certain things failed. By certain performance metrics were not at a certain place, do some troubleshooting and then resolve or document. For some things you might not need to resolve, it might just be make some fixes, and then tomorrow when it runs, it will fix itself. So depending on policy and protocol on how your organization works, it's going to determine the approach you take. So but it starts with just checking dashboards, it's checking emails, health check updates, health check reports. What's the status of the health of my environment? Environment is the database infrastructure or the database ecosystem that you get to support, right? When we talk about the environment, that's what I mean. So that's, what we're doing first in the morning. You don't have to manually check every system. Again, there's third-party monitoring tools that a lot of companies have, or like the emails I talked about, that will be basically just coalesce all the reports and you get one simple report that you're looking at. If there are critical servers or critical systems that you support, then I always highly recommend go check them out manually if you want to, especially those money makers, those ones that are the critical money makers, that if they are down, there's problems, and just take a peek and check the dashboard, check your third party, just make sure everything is good. That maybe you don't want the third party tool to malfunction today and then you don't know something happened. So you might want to look at those ones, those critical ones, just make sure things are good. Look at your check your system metrics, look at your performance indicators, your health check, your processor, memory, all of that good stuff. Do that quick health check in the morning, and then that's the first thing you're doing what we call maintenance validation, confirming all those processes, the index maintenance, the backup job that it ran successfully. You do what we call, for some, this doesn't happen everywhere that I've worked, some companies have this report, some don't, but like a capacity planning review, and that's basically just briefly looking at how your data growth trends, right? Start looking for, you want to anticipate any, like, especially with storage, that's your hard drive for the layman, but storage, how is your database growing? Do I have enough resources? You don't want to run out of space and then not be, if you run out of space and your database is live, you're going to have a database go to suspect mode, and then that's bad for, that's outages that will result in consequences, whether it's revenue loss or any of that. So we don't want any of that to happen on our watch. We want to be very careful, and so that's a big piece. Part of things we check is make sure that from a capacity planning perspective, we're in good shape. We don't want to wait till we're thirsty to start digging the well, if you catch what I mean. And so that's the morning coffee, getting started. And then we have our core daily work, right? That's projects and collaboration, times to wear the consultant hat. And this is where we work with other teams, not just working on the database, right? As you're working on projects, we work a lot with developers. One of the non-technical skills I always talk about for people who become good database administrators is that ability to work cross-collaborate with multiple teams. Being able to connect with other people from other departments, other teams. We do a lot of work with people in server administration, networking. DBAs, the role of a database administrator is not one that is done in isolation at all, right? So it's super important that we're able to collaborate, that we're able to really have support. A lot of the projects that we do, we are going to be working alongside colleagues and peers from other teams, developers, server engineers, storage admins, storage engineers, networking, cloud infrastructure guys. So it's always different application owners, product owners, project managers, scrum masters. We get to work with all of these people at different levels. And so that support is a key part of what we're able to do, whether it's just being a subject matter expert and lending your expertise to product development, or basically giving updates on your part of the work when it involves a particular project, whatever it is. But that collaboration, where you're kind of stepping into that consultant role or getting into that design strategy, part of our life, it's a big part of our work. There is what I call the strategic project time. And this is where you focus on long-term initiatives, right? Where you're looking at, again, the state of things. Let's say projects like migration planning. We're trying to move from on-prem to a cloud infrastructure. So you're sitting and you're working and doing your analysis on your current infrastructure. You're looking at your database sizes and figuring out what's the best way to effectively migrate the systems. What's the best way to do this and make it seamless, right? It's a key part of our day-to-day life. There's growing focus on things like automation. How do we automate some of our repetitive processes by looking for enhancing the functionality? So this is where this phase is the strategic support, strategic projects. You're looking at how are we able to make the work we do more effective, more efficient, so that we're not spending time on mundane, repetitive tasks. How can we automate them? How do we write scripts to automate the repetitive things that we do? And then we also, next phase of our core daily task is what I call security implementation. And this is where we're dealing with user permissions, access issues. I was telling somebody yesterday, again, I don't know when you're going to watch this, what day you're watching this, but today is a Thursday as I record this. It will go live on Saturday. So a few days ago, I was having a conversation with a colleague at work, and I was telling them, if I'm not taking you off as a database administrator, then I am not doing my job well. And that means I am saying no to access requests. I am asking you questions about why you are asking for a certain level of permissions. And I'm telling you, well, you don't really need that to do what you're trying to do. That is where people don't like database administrators, database engineers a lot, but it's a key part of what we do. Our job is to be gatekeepers. Right, this is one place where gatekeeping it's not just allowed, it is required to be excellent at your job. And so we gatekeep access to the database. We don't want, even for us as database administrators, things around, say, production environments, we don't want to be in there if we don't have any business being in there, right? Because again, those are mission critical systems, platforms, data, and if it's compromised, if there's any errors, or it's going to be probably revenue impacting. And revenue impacting errors, it's like blood on your hands. You get fired for those kind of things. I have a colleague that calls them resume generating activities. All right, somebody with me. So I want to be, want to make sure that on some of the security sides, you're navigating all of those access requests, managing user permissions, access roles, ensuring compliance, and things that prevent data breach. I've seen articles where we're called the guardians of the digital trust. Fancy title or fancy name to bear, but that's the game. The game is the game. That's how it is. And so sometimes it might be reviewing, when it comes to security implementation, it might be reviewing our current system and infrastructure. I've seen this project in my current employer and different places that I've been at before, where I actually led a project when I was, working with an insurance company here in Atlanta area. And I had come in and I realized that at the time, I guess at some point everybody had access to everything. I mean, they didn't have an in-house database administration team, and so everybody just had sysadmin privileges, and they could go in and make changes. When if they felt something needed to be done, they went in and did it. And I'm talking people from accounting had admin access, owned jobs. Again, if you're a database administrator, you're probably freaking out and wondering what kind of environment is that. That's how it was, right? But again, so my job at the time, I was the first full-time in-house. They had external consultants that were helping them just keep an eye on things and make sure things didn't just fall apart. And those guys had recommended you need an in-house person to, that's going to drive your day-to-day. And so somebody referred me for that role, who was from that offshore. The team supporting them had worked with them before, and they recommended me, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I came in for that role. But the gist of where I'm going is I came in, and then as I was auditing the environment, basically the database that I support, one thing I found was this just abundance of no guardrails when it came to permissions. Everybody had access to do whatever they wanted at the time. So the people who didn't do stuff were people who didn't know what they could do. And so one of the projects I took on was, hey, we need to do a cleanup. I need to do an audit, a full audit of the database environment, and then just redo our security. Let's write policy for security, right? Because of all, I had a lot of experience at the time, especially coming from really high volume transaction, sensitive data. I'm talking about, high compliance type environments I had worked at the time. So coming with that expertise, I knew a lot about policy, compliance, all of those things. And so I was able to leverage that expertise in my new place and started implementing policy around security, how access was going to be granted, what levels of access were permitted. And I started a cleanup process. I started with everybody with sysadmin privileges, systematically started cleaning them up. I made a lot of enemies during that process. But eventually, and that's another part where your soft skills become important, because it's also the negotiation, it's also the politics, it's also the sitting down in meetings with directors and telling them, like, listen, I have to take away this access from your team, and this is the danger, right? These are certain things that have happened, and why it's important that they don't have this access. It protects them and it protects us, right? And so all of that is part of the things that we have to do when we talk about security. So I kind of went a bit deeper into the security conversation because it's a very important aspect of our work as database administrators. We truly are gatekeepers when it comes to the data and who has access to it. We are guardians of the digital trust, like I said before. Now, another aspect of our day-to-day task is, firefighting. This is the part that we don't like. Anybody who has held the production support DBA title has probably this is probably the least favorite part of our jobs. And that's when things just break for no reason. We get these notifications, we get these alerts, we have to go figure out what happened. We get this very vague emails from I won't name names because I don't want to make any enemies. I don't know who's going to see this, but we get these very vague emails from people, trying to run their reports or do what they do. And they hit you with my application is slow. This normally takes 2 minutes, now it's slow, and that's it. So you need to figure out what the application is, what database. No details, just figure it out. We get those from time to time. Something fails and you need to go look at it. The process fails and somebody's screaming that it's failed. And I have a client or I have a customer and da 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 da. Everybody's thing is urgent, right? When it's failed, they put that urgency on the database administrator, and we have to go do that investigation. We do a lot of now this is one thing I would say. If your setup is done the right way, you shouldn't be fighting fires all the time. I've worked in really large environments that were set up properly, and I didn't have as much craziness. And I've worked in small shops, maybe not quite small, but not as large as environments, and it was chaos. I'm talking about chaos on a daily basis. So it's not necessarily always a function of the size of the organization or the database, ecosystem that you support in. It's not always about how big it is or how many servers that you support that leads to how crazy or volume of transaction. A lot of times it's just design, it's set up, making sure proper hardening when we do installation, things like that. Just again, messed up architecture or not well thought out architecture for your for the database infrastructure, stuff like that. So those are things that lead to just unheralded outages and things like that. So firefighting, you get an alert, what happened, look into it, critical application is acting up, you have to go check. Then we have what we call root cause analysis. What happened, right? Do some investigation and then figure out what happened. A lot of the times, this is what people who are inexperienced do. They focus on solving the problem and not figuring out what caused the problem. That root cause analysis is very, very important. It's not just about fixing it. Maybe you might need to apply a band-aid fix and to just get things going. But the people who become excellent, who are excellent at this thing, go back and do a thorough analysis to figure out why it happened. And are there things that need to be put in place, right? This is not where you start casting aspersions and all of that. Just do a diagnosis, figure out why it's happening. Why did this happen? If it's something that's becoming a trend, let's say it's happened one time and you resolve the issue and it's happened again and it's happened again, that's a call for a deeper dive. Or it's become a trend, you do that trend analysis and then do your root cause analysis and figure out the roots and start thinking of more permanent solutions instead of just saying, okay, is that what's happening? This is what we do when this happens. That's literally, I've seen this in a lot of places where an issue is consistent and nobody wants to take the initiative to do a deep dive into the issue. Instead, they figured out that band-aid fix and they've accepted this is how this is how it's always going to be. And so when it happens, in fact, it's documented and I tell you, oh, when this happens, do this. Why? That's how it is. That's terrible. That's almost lazy, right? You have to be willing to do extra, look at the logs, look at, run some traces, do some additional analysis, put certain do some tracing and capture more data, or figure out why or what events triggered this particular error, this particular issue that we see. Do proper triage like we do at the hospitals, and then you know how to ask you, have you traveled outside of the country? Have you done this? Have you done this? And okay, did anybody do you come in contact with somebody that has this? The reason why they ask all those questions is so they can get to the root cause of the issue that you are having. They don't just ask you for your symptoms and then give you medication to fix the symptoms. They do a deep dive into why, are there situations when you start noticing this? How long has it been going on? When this happens, are you able to eat? Is your stomach hurting? Did you travel anywhere? Did you come in contact with somebody? All those annoying questions the doctors ask or the nurses ask when they do their triage is to make sure they get to the root, so that when they prescribe or when they attack the problem or the symptoms, they are fighting the right battle. It is the same thing. Take time to ask the right questions. When did you start noticing this? How many times has this error happened? How long does this script take when you run it? How long was it taking before? All of that deep dive, it can be tiring, but it is important, right? That's what the good database administrator. Now, when it comes to just doing our diagnosis, there's so many tools. Again, depending on the database platform that you support. I'm going to use SQL Server as my case study because that's the realm that that's my day job. That's my day to day. Right. So whether let's say there's native tools. These are the ones that are part of the SQL Server suite, the SQL Server, platform or tool or software, right? So things like Profiler, it's last resort. We don't want to start with Profiler, but things like your SP Hood 2, a stored procedure that shows you the current state of affairs, basically. Your activity monitor, there is extended events. We now start looking at DMVs, just different. These are all different tools that Microsoft has made available to us to help us with troubleshooting, analysis. Again, there's always your error logs as well, your reports. There's reports, pretty much detailed reporting within SQL Server. That's crazy to show you, depending on whatever report you're looking for, from troublesome queries to long-running queries to blocking, deadlocks, all of that. Again, if you're new to database administration, I just spoke in tongues right there. But for people who have been in the game for a little bit, what I'm saying is making sense to you. So, and again, we teach all of these things in class at NStar Technologies. If you're looking to get into database administration, it's fun. It's crazy, but it's fun. It's not boring. You get to learn, and the career paths are. I digress. Let me come back. All right. So those are the native tools that we can use for troubleshooting and getting to the root cause of issues. And then we have the third-party tools, right? So these are just external tools to software platforms external to Microsoft or external to SQL Server that you have to purchase, but they help you basically see what's going on within your database or do things within your database, like make it more efficient. So a lot of these third-party monitoring tools are very effective. They give you nicer, prettier dashboards, easier to drill down and find my theory is you can always find the things you're looking for directly using the local tools within SQL Server. But those third-party tools just make it a bit more exciting to use. Whether when you're using like an Idera or a SentryOne, you always better sponsor this program. using those platforms, those are always exciting. Make life easier, to drill down. There's, Dynatrace, Redgate. The list is long. There's so many of them. I've used so many of my time as a database administrator or database engineer. You use those tools to do your troubleshooting and all of that. And then you're communicating. It's very important when you are navigating these issues. You want to make sure that you are keeping your stakeholders in the loop. Okay, so this is what I'm seeing, right? Because the more you communicate with them, it might trigger some information that they will now give you that might help your next step in your troubleshooting. So make sure you're communicating back and forth. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm finding. Is that consistent with what you're seeing? This is what I found. Did you notice anything like this? Or have you seen this before? Right. And so that is constant, continuous communication with stakeholders while you are troubleshooting is super important. And then as you are troubleshooting and figuring out a solution, start building out your recovery plan. How do I resolve this issue? How do I If it's where there's loss and you need to recover from backup, what's that going to look like? Do I need a window? Do I need downtime? How do I minimize, and how do I do this without causing an outage? Those are questions now you have to start having those conversations. If it's a lower environment, maybe that's not a big deal for you. It might be something where we can do this and we can shut down, restart, reboot. We're good. We can, shut down services. Nobody's going to ask questions. But if it's production, now we start talking about change requests. We, getting approvals, maybe do an ECAB, all of that good stuff. So the game, it's different. How you respond depends on how critical the server is, how critical the database is, stakeholder pressure, policies already in place, and all of that good stuff. So that's a general idea. So you start your day just navigating what happened last night, do some investigation on all the things that happened, your maintenance jobs, make sure they run successfully, make sure everything is good. If there's any issues, you want to go back, troubleshoot, resolve, document, all of that. And then we navigate from there. We have collaborative work that we do, whether you're working on projects, or working with development teams, application owners, as a consultant, or part of or the subject matter expert for an ongoing project, whatever it is, you are doing all of this, things. And then of course the fire drill, things that we get to do, break fixes, stuff that happens. And of course, the last part is when you're on call after hours. That's just, hey, something that's happened, it's 9 p.m. and then you get that phone call and you have to jump on a conference call and you're looking at the computer, you're looking at the server to see what's going on and figuring out what's the best route to resolve this issue. That is a key part of, our day job. If you get to, again, I'm privileged, I'm blessed. I have not been in an on-call role in a minute. I don't miss it, but it's almost always part of what the database administrators have to do. All right, so the role of the database administrator involves, just learning, continuous learning, because the technologies are constantly evolving, and sometimes there might be just some expansions. You might have a vendor that is not using your primary platform, right? There might be an application and they are not going to build out a whole new infrastructure to support and hire a new DBA to support Oracle, because it's just one Oracle database that supports an application or MySQL. And no, it's probably going to be you having to learn how to support MySQL. But what that does, it helps you expand your repertoire, right? Recently, we got Snowflake dumped on our lap. Another department was using it, and then somebody said, hey, is this not supposed to be the DBA supporting this? And suddenly we are in the middle of getting certified for Snowflake and learning that. So they're not going to hire a new set of DBAs, right, to manage Snowflake and doing data warehousing and reports. We get to figure it out. So have that open mind to constantly learn. Even your core platform is always going to be evolving, right? SQL Server is always releasing new versions. You have to be able to keep up with what's new with SQL Server 2022. Why is it important to migrate to that platform? Because you're going to be looked up to as the subject matter expert to make some decisions, maybe within your team, right? To make recommendations. Well, this is a reason why we should move forward with this, or no. You might need to provide justification. So we have to be proactive in learning, spend time, have your own lab, go try it out, try things out, practice. If there's features and functionalities, go for conferences, go for training, but just have that constant learning mindset. That continuous development mindset is super important. Just have that constant, growth mindset. Document everything. It's very important to document your processes, right? You create run books for every event. When I mean events, if you do migration, what's the process we use for migration? Have a run book for that. When we do installation, what's the run book? When we configure availability groups, what's the playbook? What's the run book, right? Have that. If we're doing a change, what's the process? Change requests, approval by director. Next step, have those run books in place, have documentation. It makes decision making easier and fast. You're not confused. You're not trying to figure out what's going on. Naming conventions, access requests, access management. Have a run book for all of those things. These are the things that take you from, elevate you as a database administrator into that senior level. Start going beyond start thinking of yourself as not just a technician. See yourself as an architect. See yourself as an automation engineer. I did last week's session was on the different roles or different titles that DBAs go by now. And so we're not just database administrators anymore in 2025. It's the role has evolved, right? It's evolving into other areas. It's wider in scope, and people are looking for a little bit more, out of their database administrators. Right. So as I get set to wrap this one up, I hope somebody's gained some value out of this. Please hit me up in the chat. And let me know what your thoughts are on this conversation so far. If there's anything that's part of your day, your day in the life that I missed out, I'd love to hear about it. Or maybe you're just curious and you have more questions, hit us up in the chat, and I would love to. Would love to answer your questions as well. Make sure you subscribe while you're there. Subscribe to the channel, tell your friends about it. If you're considering or exploring a career in database administration, then I would love to chat with you and tell you about how we help students or help our students transition into this very rewarding career as database administrators. It pays well, it gives you the work-life balance you need, you do meaningful work. It's an excellent career path. Is it challenging at times? Yes. But it's also very fulfilling. Your work actually counts for something. All right. A lot of people cannot say that about what they do on a day-to-day basis. So it's a blessing to be in this lane, in this field. Working in data, it's going to be something that is always in vogue. No trend is going to take away the world's dependence on data today. It's a data-driven world. We are generating data on a regular basis, and that data needs a home, and that home needs a landlord. And that's the DBA. All right. That's my spiel today. Thank you for hanging out with me. I am very grateful for your time. I don't take it for granted. So it's time for you to start managing your data, managing your career like you manage your database. Get proactive. Have a clear plan for growth. Hit us up. Let's help you get to the next level. My name's Nnamdi Ihenacho, and I will see you next week for our next episode of Workforce Ready with NStar. God bless you. Thank you.